While Pierre was gone, Lupion had used some of his newfound wealth from his marriage to Marguerite to open a cafe in Paris. When he found out about this, Pierre, again completely unrecognizable to anyone who knew him before, applies to work at the cafe as a waiter. He's a hard worker and quickly gains Lupion's trust. While on a shift serving food and drinks, he sees his old friends have all stayed in touch, and Solari and Chaubert frequently come in to hang out with Lupion. He had found all of his targets, and now his revenge tour could finally begin. A few weeks after Pierre begins working at Lupion's cafe, Chaubert's body is found dead in an alley, stabbed with a knife with a handle engraved with the number 1. A few days later, while walking home after eating at Lupion's cafe, Solari falls and starts foaming at the mouth. His doctor examines him and informs him he's been poisoned. He dies the next day. At the viewing of his body, a note with the number 2 is found pinned to Solari's chest. Lupion is freaked out by the sudden deaths of his 2 close friends, but hey, at least his new waiter is doing a good job. Bonjour! You f***ing prick. So Pierre's revenge admittedly has been pretty vanilla so far, but this is where it starts to get wild, because Lupion was the one who came up with the idea that got Pierre thrown in prison in the first place. Plus, he married his girl when he was gone. For this friend, a simple death would just not do. Lupion needs to suffer. Lupion has 2 adult children from a previous marriage, and this is where Pierre chooses to begin his revenge. Lupion's daughter is courted by a noble, and they fall in love. They plan an extravagant wedding with 150 esteemed guests. During the wedding dinner, the groom is running a little late, and a note is placed in front of each guest. Upon reading the note, the dinner guests discover that the groom is in fact not a noble and is actually a criminal that is again on the run. It turns out Pierre had paid this man a large sum to seduce Lupion's daughter and ruin her wedding. Lupion and his family are humiliated, and the daughter dies from shock a week later. Next, Lupion's son is arrested for participating in a robbery while drunk and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The son objects, saying he did nothing wrong, but the evidence is there. Evidence that was planted by Pierre. During sentencing, the police report anonymous bribes pushing for the death penalty. On top of all of this, while away at the wedding, Lupion's cafe is set on fire and he loses everything. Marguerite dies due to the stress of all the misfortune that seems to be coming their way, and Lupion is left homeless, penniless, and all alone. With his friend's entire life now completely destroyed, Pierre finally reveals to Lupion that he was in fact not a 50-year-old waiter, but a once former friend whom he had betrayed. Pierre stabs Lupion in the heart with a knife engraved with the number 3, killing him instantly. Had that been the end of it, we probably would never know about this story, but Alute catches Pierre in the act and holds him hostage. Alute heard Pierre's confession and tries to extort him for his fortune, but with his revenge now complete, Pierre does not care and is content to die. In frustration, Alute beats Pierre and runs away to England, where he tells others of this story on his deathbed years later. Days later, the police find Pierre starving and beaten, and he tells them the same story of his grand revenge before passing away from his injuries. Number 2. Vlad the Impaler and the Boyars.